Welcome back to the channel where we discuss stocks, crypto, investing, and personal finance. I'm Mike.
And I'm Max, and today we're going to talk about blockchain technology. What is it? How does it work? And why is it set to change the world in so many different ways?
We're going to answer these questions in a way that's simple and easy to understand. But before we jump right in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with our weekly videos.
So, where did it all start? Well, in 2009, an anonymous person or group calling themselves Satoshi Nakamoto released a white paper titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system.
This was the first published record of what is now Bitcoin and how blockchain technology behind it works. The most interesting thing about this event was that Satoshi, whoever that is, offered up the open source code to the world, meaning anyone could use it.
Developers and creators could now use this code to design their own version of a blockchain. And they did. Today there are over 3,000 different cryptocurrencies. And Mike, that number is growing daily.
It is. But how does it really work? Is it all just about digital internet money like most people think? The answer is no. And here's why. To explain how blockchain works, first we need to look at the name, blockchain. It's literally a chain of blocks.
Say I wanted to send Mike some Bitcoin. A request would have to be made. This request would be represented as a new block. This new block is broadcast to every computer on the network.
These computers are called nodes. All nodes need to approve the new block, and this is called consensus. Once the block is verified, it is then added to the blockchain and can never be altered or deleted. The transaction is complete, and Michael right here gets his Bitcoin.
So what makes the blockchain so secure? First off, the network governs itself. No other party has control over it. Furthermore, each block has three main components: the information or data, the hash, which is a unique code like a fingerprint that identifies everything inside the block, and the hash of the previous block in the chain.
If the hash is changed, then something inside the block is changed. These changes are very easy to detect because each block has a copy of the previous block's hash. This is what creates the chain.
If a block is tampered with, then all the following blocks are no longer storing a valid hash of the previous block. This is the first way that the network can detect tampering.
The second is that every node on the network has a copy of every block, and these copies are exactly the same. The nodes come to agreement on which blocks are valid and which ones are not.
So to tamper with the blockchain, you would have to change the hash on all the blocks on the chain and take control of over more than half of all the nodes on the network at the exact same time.
You would need a majority in the consensus to get the rest of the network to trust that your tampered block was verified. This is nearly impossible, and that's why blockchains are highly secure.
Okay, so now that you have a basic understanding of how the blockchain operates, let's look at some ways that technology can impact different areas of our life.
Because everyone relates crypto to money, let's start with that. The transfer of money has always required third parties to establish trust. We use banks to verify funds and make sure transactions are documented and completed fairly.
There are some growing concerns with the way they've been doing this though. The fees can be very expensive and the transactions can take a long time to verify and execute.
Cryptos like Stellar are making it possible for people to send money to their loved ones across the world in seconds at a fraction of the cost of what banks would charge.
Sending money from developed nations to undeveloped nation is a $600 billion with a B dollar industry a year. These blockchain projects are cutting out the middleman and giving the power back to the people.
Not to mention, El Salvador has recently made Bitcoin legal tender, and many other small countries are looking to follow their footsteps. This would relieve their dependence on their weak national currency or that US dollar.
The ability to control your assets and transfer them instantly and securely has the central banking system scrambling to develop its own digital currencies. They don't want to lose control of the monopoly they have over the world financial system. Hopefully for all of us, crypto becomes widely adopted sooner than later.
Next, let's talk about public records and land titles. Over 70% of the people that own land in the world don't have a verifiable title. Here's an example. Say you have a small farm with some goats, maybe a couple chickens in a developing country, and you have a paper record that says you own it.
In these developing countries, nothing can stop the governments from claiming that your paper title isn't valid and forcing you out. This exact problem is happening in countries like Honduras right now.
Furthermore, billions of people don't have birth certificates or proper identification in the world today. Without proper ID or land titles, you cannot borrow against your land. This is one of the major reasons why people in developing nations cannot prosper.
Blockchain technology is going to change all of this. Many countries are now working with crypto projects to establish people's identities and put records of their education history and land titles on the blockchain.
And as we know, once these records are recorded, they cannot be changed or deleted. This is the path to prosperity for potentially billions of people.
Currently, Cardano is working in Africa, in countries like Ethiopia, where they're in progress of instituting a project that will put 700,000 teachers and 5 million students on the blockchain.
They will have digital identities and records of their education and skills tracked. This will give them a greater chance of being accepted to a university by having a secure and trusted record of their achievements.
There are an estimated 4 billion people with no access to the web.
No YouTube?
No YouTube. Cardano is also working with partners in Tanzania like World Mobile, who are setting up online access across the country so people that have never been able to access the internet will now have the means to get themselves online.
Think of it like this. Nearly everyone in the US has a birth certificate and identification of some sort, whereas in some of these countries, it's just not an option.
With the help of the blockchain, creating digital identities for these people will allow them access to services like healthcare or finance, which would otherwise be impossible.
This is powerful because more than half of the world is still offline. Once these people have access to the information available online, they can use these resources to learn and prosper.
On the developing nations subject, blockchain tech is also revolutionizing humanitarian aid. With the ability to track every cent donated, organizations have to be transparent with how donations are being spent and how help is being achieved in every detail.
Charity foundations have been well known to have a lot of expenses and are often very vague with how exactly these donations are being used. With the use of blockchains, however, this would be a thing of the past.
Moving on, healthcare is also an industry that is going to change vastly with blockchain implementation. You will be able to privately and securely store your records online, which can be instantly accessed anywhere in the world with your approval.
An example of why this could be helpful is, say you're traveling in Mexico with a tequila in your hand and you get sick. You have a medical emergency. You can allow access to your personal history with a click of a mouse.
The next area where blockchain technology will be the most impactful yet the most reluctant to adopt would be in government. Empty promises from politicians are an ongoing issue globally. When every word and every dollar is recorded and cannot be changed, there's very little room for corruption.
This is why we feel there may be some hesitation with government acceptance. Imagine if you could go online and see where every tax dollar is being spent, or if promised projects and infrastructure are going ahead instead of just believing our elected officials' words.
This also brings us to electoral voting. Trust is the biggest determining factor every citizen has in common when it comes to government.
How can we trust that our voice will be heard or our vote will be counted? If elections were to run on blockchain technology, questioning the process would no longer exist.
As we know, once information is recorded on the blockchain, it cannot be changed or removed. They're secure and transparent. They ensure voter confidence.
The last thing we are going to touch on here is supply chain management. What does it mean, and how can blockchain technology help it be more efficient?
Supply chains are used to ship goods and services around the world every day. Integrating blockchains into this process would make it more effective.
The data on every transaction would be recorded and easily accessible, making it highly transparent. It's also very difficult to compromise the data because of its security.
Let's look at the example of perishable goods in the supply chain. Every good is tracked in every stage from raw material, wholesale, and retailer right down to the consumer.
Other ways the blockchain will transform supply chain management are better shipping data, reducing human error, and better transparency across all areas of the process.
Businesses could also cut costs as there's no need for banks to make payments. All transfers can be made directly on the blockchain quickly and securely. All these benefits we've just mentioned would give companies the ability to prosper efficiently.
These various applications are just a few of the ways that blockchain technology will influence the world. Trust is the main takeaway we can have in blockchain technology, thanks to the security, transparency, and efficiency it has to offer.
The need for middlemen like banks, lawyers, and government interference should disappear, saving us time, money, and resources. With that said, all this talk of blockchains has us eager to
buy the dip.
But before we go, make sure to drop us a like and comment below.
Don't forget to make that notification bell glow.
If you look at our subscriber count, it's pretty low.
Every little bit helps the channel grow.
All right, enough of the flow. We gotta go.